Good evening. We'll go ahead and reconvene open session. 6.0 reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1, the Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:39 p.m. I'll just note that we have one board member calling in this evening, Dr. Leslie Branson. With that, we'll move on to 6.2, roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish a quorum. Jordan Zarati, Trustee Area 3, Running Springs, Arrowsar Lake, Green Valley Lake.
Cindy Gardner, Trustee Area 2. Diana Redland, Trustee Area 1.
Natalie Lindeman, Trustee Area 2.
Please muted.
Dr. Branson, you're still muted.
Leslie Branson, Trustee Area 1.
Okay, with that, we have our quorum. And we'll move forward to 6.3, Pledge of Allegiance, led by your high school principal, Over.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We move on to 7.0, our closed session report. 7.1, announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. The board does not approve the request for readmission for expulsion case number 05-18/19. It does include additionally a placement at Brown High School. The vote was 5-0. The board approves the request for readmission for expulsion case number 04-19/20. The vote was 5-0. 8.0, public testimony. 8.1, public comment. Public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point in the meeting set aside for the members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in dialogue or answer questions. Though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period, the board, for example, may refer any matters to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on future agenda. Due to the modified meeting procedures during the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, if a member of the public would like to address the governing board on agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction, an email should have been submitted to the executive secretary of the superintendent by noon today. Written comments will be read aloud and subject to the board's usual time limits for public comments. With that, we'll move to 8.2, public comments. We did receive one public comment today from Alicia Wilson, and I'll go ahead and read it verbatim. Thank you, Superintendent Murphy and board members, for all that you are doing during this difficult time. I appreciate all the hard work you are doing for our students, staff, and families. I know that the district is moving forward to bring elementary students back to campus in a hybrid model now that the waiver has been approved. Even though there is an outline of returning to campus on the strategic plan, there are still many questions to be answered and plans that need to be made. Even though the waiver has been approved and surveys have been utilized, I feel compelled to voice concerns for myself and for others that do not feel comfortable reaching out. As I have been meeting with parents during parent-teacher conferences, I have had parents tell me they did not complete the return to school survey because they did not have enough information and did not want to agree to something that they still have questions about. I know that the survey results that were communicated stated that 78% of families want their child to return to campus. I would like to acknowledge that this was a district-wide TK through 12 grade survey. Since the district is only having discussions about TK through 5th grade returning to campus, I think it is imperative that the district do a return to school survey for elementary families separately. During this time of uncertainty, I think we need to think of what is most important. Of course, everyone would like to return to school. What is the most important? Or what is that what is most important? In the past, the district has always stated that health, family, and work/school are the priorities in that order. By returning to school using a waiver method, even with safety precautions in place, would be placing work/school in the top priority. Recently, I have had 3 people close to me that have needed medical attention, both planned and emergency. In all 3 cases, the person's partner in life, be that wife or mother, was not allowed to enter the hospital to give support and help. I want you to take a moment to think if hospitals do not want one other person in the room, is having 15 people in a small room for multiple hours a day a good decision? Is having teachers in contact with 30 students in a week a good decision? Distance learning is not the same as being in person learning. But many families told me during parent-teacher conferences that they are in a rhythm now and feel that their child is receiving a good education despite this difficult time. Please take time to consider what's best for all. Thank you for your time and consideration, Alicia Wilson. That was our only public comment of the evening. So with that, we'll move to 8.3, RTA and CSE representatives. And I see Mr. Barry's here. Would you like to speak on behalf of RTA? Yes. Excellent.
Are we speaking with masks on or off?
We
Need you to speak into the microphone.
as long as you're in the microphone. Yeah.
I know it's a bit jumbled, so excuse me if I'm sounding a bit jumbled. So can I do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening and working together as a community to deal with this gargantuan problem. If I had known my first 2 years of RTA would be dealing with the impasse with the district and then a pandemic now, I would have rethought the whole thing. But I'm trying to do my best. We all are. Reopening. I share Mrs. Alicia Wilson's concerns. However, I want to make it clear that the Teachers Association is not opposed to reopening our schools. What we want to do is reopen as safely and methodically as possible. And we may have disagreements on that, and that's okay, but we need to talk to each other and communicate with one another. One of the concerns I have and RTA has was with the COVID task force that was recently put together. And again, I know the district has pressure from parents, some parents, to reopen. The first time the COVID committee met, they decided to reopen. And RTA was aware that the district was wanting to do a waiver, and we were okay with that. But we were caught off guard after the COVID committee met and decided that November 3rd would be a good reopening date. And frankly, reopening right after Halloween and right before Thanksgiving. We know a lot about this virus, but there's a lot we still don't know. And frankly, I've been frustrated with getting the facts, getting to the truth of this, because on one station they're saying one thing, on another station they're saying another thing, and it's hard to figure out what to believe in some cases. What are the facts? Even the CDC, this has become politicized, and even the CDC has been manipulated by the executive office of our country. So what do we believe? And I think that's one of the hard things for us all, or what are the facts? Because none of us want anybody that we know in our community to get sick, or God forbid, die, for the fact that we're coming back to school. None of us want that. But we also know that distance learning isn't ideal for all the kids, for most of the kids. I think they've gotten better at it, and I've gotten better at it, but it's been a real hard transition. And it's been a hard transition for a lot of teachers, except for maybe the real new ones that are technology savvy. So I want to give kind of kudos to all the teachers that work very hard to recalibrate completely what they're doing. I mean, we really didn't sign up for this. We signed up to be with kids. And the fact that we can't be around them, I mean, we know that they carry germs and we get sick and they get sick, but this is a totally different situation. So what do? We talk to each other, we communicate with one another, and we try to make the best decisions we can possibly make. Over the summer, the Teachers Association spent most of the summer writing up the MOU for distance learning. Well, we're trying to do a similar thing for reopening now. The problem is most of the larger districts in the state aren't planning on reopening anytime soon that I've heard of. LA, San Diego, San Francisco, the two MOUs that we looked at for the summer MOU for distance learning were Marin County and San Diego. Well, they're not planning on reopening anytime soon, so they don't have any MOU to look at. So who are we looking at? Well, we're looking at Lucerne Valley and their agreement, Big Bear and their agreement. And I don't think what they have is as encompassing as the RIM teachers want. Remember, my job is to represent 150 teachers who are paying me a fee to represent them. And 75% of them may want to come back. However, I know a lot of them filled out the survey, going, you know, I don't feel real comfortable because I don't know the details about coming back. There's no memorandum of understanding telling me that what details there are. I mean, are the windows going to be fixed? Or are they going to be stuck closed? That's just one example of one detail. I know we recently agreed that we need filters, and the districts agreed to get those out of the COVID funds. But there are a lot of things that we just haven't had time to sit down and talk about. We've had over 100 different suggestions, ideas from teachers, our membership. And the negotiating team can only do so much. We're setting up a subcommittee of teachers in elementary school so they can work out some of these problems. And they can maybe get the elementary schools on the same page and then give that information to the bargaining team for when they go back to bargaining. So again, we're not opposed to reopening, but we want to do it safely. A couple of things are also a concern to me, is I feel like there have been some personal attacks on RTA leadership, which we don't need if we're working together. One, won't get into the specifics, but a letter was written about me to my CTA boss, you may say, criticizing me that I don't communicate with the district. Well, I don't think that's true. And a lot of other people don't think that's true. Mrs. Markovich, who has brought up concerns from her membership that are personal. I'm not going to bring them up here because it's not the appropriate place. But, you know, she's feeling that because she's brought up these concerns from teachers, that she's being kind of undermined or attacked. So that's what we don't need. Another concern of mine is I did go to my personal doctor up here, Dr. Sharif, and I asked her about reopening. And she said it's a big mistake right now. The numbers are increasing almost nationwide. And she said, you have hypertension and this and that. I would not recommend that you go back to school. So, but I want to go back to school. So I'm not going to take her advice. But that's what she told me. Another problem is the situation varies from day to day. And I know Mrs. Murphy and the others have, the board has expressed concerns at the federal, state, and county level that they tell us one thing one day and then it changes the next. How can we plan? I don't know. We can do the best that we can do. There's a lack of leadership from the federal government to the county. And what we have to do is communicate as best as possible with one another. And if the board feels strongly about reopening, let us know so we know your point of view. I know we're losing students. Where are they going and why? I know the Christian school requires masks. Some people have a problem wearing the mask. So why are they going there? If they want religious instruction, then I get it. But other than that, I'm not sure I understand. I know this is a golden opportunity for charter schools to put advertisements on TV and say, oh, we'll offer you this, that, and the other thing. CTA, I know I'm watching them. I think that our school board needs to watch some of these charter schools also to make sure that they're being honest, that they're not playing the game of we're going to go into communities and take students away from them, because that's how they get funded through ADA. And that's how they get their money too. So, and while some charter schools have been pretty good, others have been very shady and dishonest. And I think we need to keep them honest, just like you're always kept honest. You're sitting here as a board, and people expect you to be upfront, honest, spend the money appropriately, and we should have the same expectations of the schools that are taking the students that live up here, because along with the students, the money goes too. And I'm not sure, that comes to my last point. I don't think parents understand that, and I don't think parents understand what a hybrid model is, and the fact that it's going to be very different from pre-closing. And I'm not sure it would be 75% of them wanting to go back if they knew exactly what hybrid was. I mean, because we're still trying to define it ourselves, but it sounds like students would come to school on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday would be a cleaning day at the school. And then another group of students would come Thursday and Friday. So again, the details need to be worked out, obviously. But, and a lot of students would have to change teachers at this point in the school year if they chose that option. So would they want that? I think with everything laid out after an MOU is written up and all the details are brought out, that the numbers might be closer to 50-50. You know, 50% saying, I'm okay with this distance learning. It's until this COVID situation is resolved. And 50% we want to probably come back no matter what. And then, you know, I hate to see a waiting list on the home choice, because I know people that have been on that waiting list and they've chosen charter. So if we can keep that waiting list as small as possible and get teachers into those positions, I think that would be wise too. So again, my job is to represent 150 teachers in this district, and the ones who don't want to wear a mask because they have objections to it, to the ones that are scared to death of returning because they feel as though their family or extended family might get sick and die, and the ones who want to return to school. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Do we have any speakers at this time for CSEA? No speakers at this time. With that, we'll move on to 9.0, our governing board members' reports and announcements. 9.1, governing board members. Let's go ahead and start virtually this evening with Dr. Branson. I believe she's on mute.
You're on mute, Dr. Branson.
Here, I'm off of mute. I'm off of mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. Oh, what an echo. Should I wait till that's resolved?
It's because she's on two devices. I think it's because you're on two devices at home.
Okay, I will turn off my computer. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, again, good evening. I've been reading current research and evidence-based articles from reputable sources on COVID-19. Actually, I've been inundated with these reports. My head sometimes is swimming with the data that I'm reading. One such article is from the Los Angeles County Health Department, which states that 41 children have been diagnosed with a rare and potentially deadly inflammatory illness connected with COVID-19. Just last week, the 41st case was diagnosed, and this new syndrome is referred to as multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, or MIS-C. This is a condition where different body parts can become inflamed, including the heart, lungs, kidneys, brain, skin, eyes, and gastrointestinal organs. Children with this condition may have a fever and various symptoms, including abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, neck pain, rash, bloodshot eyes, or a feeling of just being extra tired. This report is from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. They state that they do not know what causes this MIS-C syndrome. However, Many of the children who have it had the COVID virus or had been around someone with COVID-19. Then, to confuse matters even more, there is a new international document titled the Great Barrington Declaration. This declaration states that there are great concerns about the damaging physical and mental health impacts of the prevailing COVID-19 policies and recommends an approach referred to as focused protection. It recommends that those who are at minimal risk of death live their lives normally to build up immunity to the virus through natural infection, while better protecting those who are at higher risk. This is what they called focused protection. They consider this the most compassionate approach that balances the risks and the benefits of reaching herd immunity and allows those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives through natural infection while better protecting those who are at higher risk. These worldwide researchers recommend these principles till we reach herd immunity. So again, I'm bringing this to your attention because there is so much out there that makes me skeptical about the decisions we are all making because I don't know that we have enough information. Thank you.
Well, we'll go to Cindy and then Dr. Lindeman and Anna and then myself.
Just to let you know, Mark, there's been a couple of people that are trying to stream, and it says that all they're doing, it's just spinning. It's not streaming. So we're having some technical difficulties. I have to the principal today, and I will go out and come back in, do that work.
Hit the refresh button.
Just have to go out and come back in. That work for the three principals who work on that. Okay. Thank you. Hopefully some people will hear that and
They wouldn't hear it.
well, hopefully, okay, I will take that. Okay, so let me say my comments. So first of all, this is a really difficult conversation to reopen versus going back to school in-person instruction, whether it's hybrid or full-time. When people say that they are fearful of in-person instruction, whether it's a parent, a student, or a teacher, I totally get it. My husband had open heart surgery just a couple months ago. He is extremely vulnerable, and we really hunker down and limit the contact we have with the outside world, so to speak. And my son, who's doing residency at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, he tells me that he's given one mask per shift. Sometimes his shifts are 24 to 28 hours. And sometimes he is not notified until hours after he's seen a patient that patient has been tested and has tested positive for COVID. And as a mom, scares the bejesus out of me. So I completely understand that fear. At the same time, last week we had our Rome High School PTA meeting. We had student reps to PTA. We have a teacher rep to PTA. We have a couple of regular teachers on our executive board, and of course parents. It was a 2-hour meeting, and most of the discussion was on distance learning. And the discussion was a healthy discussion, but it was heartbreaking. Our students, I'm speaking only for high school students because that's what this meeting was about, but the disconnect, the anxiety, the even being on camera makes some of them anxious. We have students who've been A students, suddenly getting C's, D's, and F's because of technical issues or this or that. When assignments, through whatever reason, I'm not going to get into all the reasons that we discussed because then we'd have a 2-hour kindergarten board comment, but they have their regular work and then they have to do the extra credit because of the way that the technology piece is hindering some going back, doing the assignment, or re-entering it. That is causing additional stress. We have other issues that I'm not going to go into. We have our teacher was talking about how science, she's a science teacher. Science is supposed to have fun. She has fun teaching it. And it isn't fun because of the distance learning doesn't make the connection and the different, the hands-on teaching, in-person instruction. And she talked about her guilt. She talked about how hard it was for her. And then she realized that she needed to give grace to herself and her students and stop being so hard on them and herself in terms of expectations. I'm not talking about rigor of instruction, I'm talking about expectations. And the whole conversation was heartbreaking, just heartbreaking on all sides. We have mental health issues all the way around. And of course, our parents were talking about their side of it, their frustrations. We have parents of juniors and seniors that are completely freaking out over what does this do to affect college application and acceptances, you know? There's learning loss. How does this affect my child being able to be admitted and make the cut for college? There's so many layers to this conversation, and it feels like there's no right answer. Like whatever you do, there is repercussions. The mental health of our students is really concerning, and not just our district. When I'm in meetings with other school districts and other school board members, mental health is becoming a very high concern. Mental health is as concerning as the COVID itself. The thing that bothers me is that, yes, we have COVID relief money for now, this moment in time. But in our discussions, stand-ups and other meetings, how are we going to address the long-term issue of learning loss that is happening now and mental health issues that are going to be ongoing? Are we going to have that support after relief money ends, even after the pandemic ends? The pandemic may end at some point, vaccination or however, but there's ongoing issues that we're going to have to address. And that includes across the board. I mean, you talk about your decision, Mr. Mayor, about your health and going back in the classroom. How the anxiety is real for everybody. And like I said, it's heartbreaking I'm grateful that we're having the discussion, whether it's on a PTA level, a district level, SANDAPS, San Bernardino County's School Board Executive Committee, that we're having these discussions and we're sharing, what are you doing? How are you addressing? What's going on? What's going on in your district? But we're all struggling together. I mean, that's the other point. We're all struggling together. And we need to keep communicating. We need to keep working together in collaboration, have honest discussion, and to find a way forward, knowing that we have to balance mental health, the physical health, anxiety. We have to balance this all together and recognize that there are so many layers to this issue that we have to address, and that there are supports that we're going to need to put into place long term, not just this phase. And so it's just a real struggle, and it saddens me. Some of the stories coming from us and other districts, it saddens me, and I don't know if you want to fix it. I want to help, I want to fix, but there are multiple layers to the story. And so I agree, let's have honest discussion and collaboration to make sure that there is complete and total understanding when it comes to reopening schools, and that when decisions are made, that they're clearly communicated out as best we can. We have parents that aren't reading materials, and we do need to do, how do we make it easier to get this information out? So there is a lot to handle, and not just the initial reopening. I'm talking long term as well. And so I'm hoping that we can continue these discussions. I'm hoping that with the federal and state governments recognize that our students are going to need long-term supports, and do the right thing in having those conversations about the financial backing for the supports our students are going to need. So see, based on the behavior at the federal level, I'm not really hopeful, but we'll see how it happens and if it will come. So anyways, that is my report. I'm just saying that I understand the fear. I also understand our students are really struggling with this distance learning. So that's it.
Thank you, Cindy. Dr. Lindeman?
Thank you. So I would like to start off by highlighting that I respect the challenge of Mr. Bear's job in representing 150 teachers. I also want everyone to know that my expectation of myself is that I'm representing those teachers and our support staff and our students and our community and our families when I'm making my decisions. And it's an even wider net that I'm trying to consider the best interest of, and or, please, but pleasing isn't really going to be that's not an option at this. My bottom line is, yeah, students are suffering. I'm a parent and my family's suffering. And in addition, we have additional children in our home right now who are suffering, and it's very hard for everyone. I want there to be options available, and that might not be feasible. That might not be what we end up with at the end, but I want families who feel safe to return to be able to do that, or not even, I don't know what safe looks like. That's a definition that's different for each person, and that the risks are minimized to the level that they feel comfortable returning. I guess we'll say it that way. That for those families that they have the option to, and for families who don't, that we continue to offer our home choice options or independent study options, so they're able to do what's best for their families and their students. Mental health, social, emotional well-being, that is a medical condition the same as COVID. It is obviously, we are going to be facing a secondary pandemic as it relates to anxiety, depression, the socialization piece with our students and with our whole entire society. So there are long-term effects of this outside of the typical medical stuff that we're talking about that push me more in a direction of wanting my children to return. Again, when risks are mitigated to a level that feels as safe as possible. But there's going to be a point where there will still always be a risk, and you cannot mitigate absolutely everything. And so that's just something that we all have to accept, I think, and that's not gonna, risks will not go away, and they will always be there. As it comes to the surveys, I appreciate the information I received from the surveys, because if we were to send out a survey and nobody wanted to go back to school, well, then why do we even bother creating an MOU and making a plan that's not in line with what anybody wants? So I don't disagree that, like, when things are finally spelt out exactly what it's going to look like, that might change some people towards yes that were no, and some people towards no that were yes. It might change once they get back in and they try one or the other. It's going to be a fluid, kind of fluctuating thing for a lot of families, but the surveys, they have to go out, and all we could do is try to communicate as clearly and effectively as possible in order for us to have information to know what direction we should even go in. So kind of those are some of my thoughts about what's going on right now. Like I said, our family has grown a lot in our ability to offer our kids assistance with the virtual learning, and we went through a few parent-teacher conferences already, not all of them. And same thing, they recognize that my kids in my house are adapting to it. And I think that that's happening for a lot of families. Growth has occurred from the get-go, and that has to do with the teachers putting forth a whole lot of effort, still keeping it engaging and entertaining to the best of their ability. They're working hard at that, and I absolutely see it. And my kids enjoy signing on and logging on every day. But I have a stay-at-home husband who is able to literally put our kids in front of the computers and make it happen. And I know a lot of families don't have that, and a lot of students aren't given that guidance and support at home. And I think those are the ones that are suffering even more than we are within my home. So this just is a terribly challenging time. I do think that everybody has the best interest to do what's absolutely best. We just don't have a whole lot of guidance of what that is. So I appreciate everyone every day working hard to kind of figure out what that looks like for RIN. And it's not going to be, we can't sit around and wait for what a bigger district is going to do, because that's not going to work right for us anyways. So I think we have to, amongst ourselves, we have enough talent, enough educated people, enough passionate people, enough experienced people to create a plan that works right for our district. And I just want to be supportive of that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Natalie. Jordana?
A lot of it, actually pretty much everything that Cindy and Natalie said, I would also have to say me too. One of the things that a couple of things I want to address. One is a couple of quotes. One from Alicia Wilson. Mrs. Wilson was saying that providing a single answer as far as what's best for all. And we're not going to be able to find a single answer. One single approach is not going to work for what's best for all. These are really challenging times, and as many students as we have and the staff that we have on campus, we have to basically consider all those different situations, and there is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. One of the things that I have mentioned many times that I absolutely love about our school district, about our mountains, is our community. And I'll take a brief moment to mention a couple of really special people that we have lost in this past month that are a part of this community. One of our recent alumni, I didn't have the pleasure to know, Miss Seth McHenry, who passed away maybe about 2 weeks ago. Recent alumni, way too young. And I know that he was an important part of our community. His family is as well. And I know many people who are hurting for his loss. Another person to mention is Kate Bell, who was a RIM school district employee who did independent study. She also taught many of our youth how to swim on the mountain, and she was just an integral part of our community. And I know that there are many who are grieving her loss as well. And then in addition, Bob Kinzel, who didn't move up to the mountains until after his retirement, and he made a huge impact on our community. And we're just, many of us are just grieving his loss too. What makes these people, what made them a part of our community was our ability to interact with them. And that interaction comes more so person to person than through Zoom or through screens. It's necessary for us to have this distance contact right now. However, oftentimes we're thinking better safe than sorry in terms of having a distance approach to interacting with others. We're not able to get the full experience of each other through distance. We are able to keep ourselves from infecting others, and I think that especially for our vulnerable population, it's critical. I know, like from our, having spent time teaching at the high school and being on other campuses, the amount of affection our students have for each other and also have for our staff, we're not able to adequately express at this point. And we're hurting for that. So in terms of determining a best solution for all, we do have students who are need absolutely safe and encouraging and nurturing home environments. And I have no doubt that the adults connected with our school district are providing such an environment for their youth. But we also have students right now who are maybe not in the best living situation, or may not have the best connectivity academically, may not have the supports available, and we need to advocate for them too. And that's the tough situation we find ourselves in, is being able to make sure that we are keeping our staff and our students safe as much as possible. There's going to be no absolute safe way to approach any of our solutions. Keeping ourselves distanced is creating a problem that Natalie and Cindy have both alluded to, that is going to be an ongoing problem that may be impossible for us to address, the stress that people are going through now, and that disconnection, that isolation. I do know that we have a few students associated with the school district who have already been hospitalized due to that isolation and that stress. There are risks for us not attending in person, and we need to be aware of those as well. Let me see what I have here. Mark had mentioned communication is key. I couldn't agree with him more. I would add to that, compassion is key too. In that, I think that as we move ahead, families, staff are going to be having to make decisions for themselves, and us all having compassion for those individual choices, judgment-free, and supporting each other is going to be critical, and making sure that we're supporting each other through this process, communicating and listening, and trying our darndest to work together to provide what's best for everybody. Because again, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all situation. Let me see what else I have here. The one other, actually two other, actually a couple of other things. I did have the opportunity to sit in with Mrs. Palmer's special ed class last week, where she's a special ed teacher at MPH. And it was challenging as far as she had 6 students in attendance in the Zoom class, and the students had technical issues, got dropped out, came back in, dropped out, came back in. There wasn't the opportunity to have eye contact. There wasn't as much ability to be able to see what students were doing on their computers. So one student said that they had logged on, and 15 minutes later said, I never got a chance to log on, that kind of stuff, which was really hard. What brought both Mrs. Palmer and I to tears later was during her office hours. One of those students who seemed so disconnected during her regular class time, connected on at that point. And the smile that he had as he was sharing with her what was going on, he ran and got a dinosaur to share with her. And the connection that was there was real. So person to person, I imagine it might have been even more, just easier to make that connection, but I do believe daily those connections are being made. As the two of them hung up with each other, and Mrs. Palmer turned around to me, and both of us had tears streaming down our faces because it was just a special moment. So there is good going on, and connections are being made, and our staff is doing an amazing job. We need to be able to recognize that while we strive to be able to provide better solutions for everybody. 2 things just to back off of that is, I meant to mention this earlier, this Saturday, Lake Gregory, there's going to be cleanup starting at 10 o'clock. So if there's any volunteers who wish to go out, masks on, bags, equipment will be provided. That Lake Gregory cleanup volunteer effort is going on. And then also tutoring is happening. Now time has changed from 4:30 to 6 at Lake Gregory Community Church, which is on Dark Canyon. All levels of tutoring in person, masks required, is available kindergarten through 12th grade. Mostly we've been seeing middle school and high school students with math needs, but please help spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Well, we'll go ahead and end with my board reports, and I've honestly struggled a lot with coming up with the words to say tonight. And I think instead of, I think what's expected of our community members, from our community members and our constituents is, you know, we were elected to lead. We were elected to be the voice of reason and the guidance set forth. But we are all facing varying levels of struggles. There's not a single person not struggling right now, but those struggles are different person to person. And I'd like to be here to say, you know, here we are, the voice of reason, the voice of guidance, and this is what's going to happen. But we all don't know what's, we're all struggling with what the right direction is, with what the right decisions are. And we all agree, of course, on some basic things of safety and wanting what's best for our students. But, you know, you hear stories, we hear stories from our constituents and our hearts break, no matter which situation it is. If it's the student that's struggling socio-emotionally, or if it's the student that's struggling with the technology, it doesn't, you can see varying ends of the spectrum on both sides, where students are experiencing benefits from distance learning and some that are not. There are some that are rightfully worried about returning to school and what that might look like, and they have, you know, very valid concerns. And there are some that are eager to get their students back in interacting, socializing. And we hear those stories. I speak generically, but each of us board members have received, I'm sure, an onslaught of personal stories from families, from teachers, from community members in general, that want to know what's currently happening, what we're thinking, and they always have a personal anecdote to give us that's generally heartbreaking. And we take all of that with us. We really do. And I think it would be better, instead of putting on some type of facade tonight, to just say that each of us board members hear those concerns and we take them with us. We struggle with it. We're all struggling with what the right direction is. But our guiding principle and guiding light is what's going to be best for students. And let's get as much information, let's get as much data. And yes, anecdotes are a big part of that. Personalizing what direction you choose to take is going to be important. What are the consequences for the student that can't return to school? And what are the consequences for the students that shouldn't return to school? That because of a medical condition or because of whatever reason it might be, because there's a loved one at home that's vulnerable. We are all struggling, and I just want to maybe just break through and say we're struggling together. We'll work our way forward. I definitely thank everyone that's reached out to me. Some people are very passionate and some people are angry, and it's right to be either. It's right to be passionate and angry. It's right to be interested in what we're going to be doing. I would encourage people to just continue reaching out to us, continue telling us stories. I'm at the farmer's market working every weekend, and I hear stories every weekend at the farmer's market. If you're there, stop by. It's the one in Running Springs. I'm happy to step aside and talk to you, listen to your concerns, whether that be with reopening or with distance learning. We just want to hear more. We put out surveys, but we are here for you, and I think it's better to just say tonight that we're listening and that we're not careless in our thoughts or actions. We really take it and struggle with it and sleep with it every night and are just hoping for the best for all of us, and we'll be working towards that. And that's my personal note of the evening, or my thoughts there. I would also like to just keep in mind some things that Cindy and Natalie and Jordana have alluded to is our state and our schools have been in a financial crisis for years now, for decades. And that happened before the pandemic. We are still in that financial crisis today. We've received the Band-Aid, thankfully. That's helped us prepare for what a safe reopening might look like. You know, from things like plexiglass dividers to hand sanitizing stations to medical grade HEPA air filters and air purifiers for every single classroom, with fans for every classroom. The list goes on. To masks for every student. You know, that funding has helped us prepare, but it is not the be all end all. When this pandemic is through and we continue on, school districts will be in a worse financial crisis in our state than before the pandemic. We're on a financial cliff, if you will. The governor and the legislature agreed to hold districts ADA full harmless from last year to this year, but that's districts were declining. We're leveling out for 1 year, and then we're going to continue to decline. But in that meantime, we're still facing declining enrollment, larger than we've seen previously. So we're walking on a boardwalk that doesn't have supports at the moment, and next year, when that ADA full harmless isn't there, we will fall. And that is statewide. That's something all school districts are facing right now. And we need your help. We need your support. I would definitely ask everybody to read what went out on Parent Square this earlier, today through our business department, asking parents to fill out the meals waiver application. That's extremely important for our district in helping us retain what little funding we've been, slowly losing over the years. I know that nothing about tonight's board reports were particularly optimistic, but we are an optimistic bunch. We are working towards, again, what would be best. This is the situation that we're in, but we can all be in it together. Call us, email us. You can even text us if you want. That's perfectly fine. I just would encourage everybody to continue working together. I definitely think our community up here is special. We've all been pulling together. We've received a lot of support, and I would just continue to encourage that level of dialogue that we've been having, if not more. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up my board report, and we'll move on to 9.2, our superintendent, Michelle Murphy.
I'd just like to thank the board and Mr. Bear for your comments tonight and working together as we navigate, as you said, these difficult times. I do have a couple of announcements that I think would be interesting for folks to know. Next week, we have a special board meeting. We had 2 people apply for trustee area 1. Their names were in the paper today. So Bill Millinger and Teresa Radzik will be interviewed here next Thursday evening. And the board will make a selection for a December start at our reorg meeting. I would like to mention that the PAB is having their first meeting next week, and it will be a difficult first meeting with the loss of our chairperson because it was Bob Kinzel. So we will take a moment to honor him at that meeting and reorganize ourselves. We're still looking for members for that committee, but that was a great loss for our students and how we support some special ed kids on the mountain and did a lot of work. So it will be a great loss to that committee. I would like to say congratulations to 3 of our principals, Mr. Nygren, Marlon Humphreys, and Jennifer Whiteside, who all graduated last week from the NISL program. That was about an 18-month strenuous program. It stands for National Institute for School Leaders. And they had to do that work on top of their daily work. So congratulations to the 3 of them. And other than that, it's really just been things about meetings, and I've spoken at all 3 Rotaries about schools and distance learning and education Those ended this week, and I've also had this COVID task force meeting. We've met for the third time. There was an addendum to mask, which I think everyone really approved of. The county has come out with that anyone over age 2 must wear a mask or a shield, and I think that's a good step in the right direction. So we made that change. Those air recyclers that everybody's talking about are on their way. The state did make changes recently, but they did not impact schools this week. So the changes were an equity matrix that talked about how we do the calculations for change of color, and also a household, new guidelines for households. So I think folks were confused, but for this time, you weren't supposed to have anybody in your house. The guidelines from Governor Newsom now say you can have up to 3 families in your house, and those families should be consistent. So the survey that was referenced in Ms. Wilson's letter was only to elementary parents. It was not a K-12 survey about reopening, and the parents that did not answer the survey were called individually so that we could start knowing what numbers will look like as we're in the planning phases. So we look forward to having tomorrow off. I think it's well deserved for our teachers and our staff. Our classified staff have been busy painting and getting schools ready, and our teachers have been working very hard. So I hope everyone enjoys a well-deserved break for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. With that, we'll move on to 9.3, our student representative report. Anthony Amelini, Real the World High School.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm Anthony Armlini. I'm the student reporter for Rim High School District. Today, first thing I'd like to do before I get into my report is I'd just like to point out a couple of just personal opinions of how distance learning is going in our high school, and then I'll get to the well-being of our other schools and inform you guys on how we're doing with all that so far. So, yes, I've experienced some hardships as well. I can recall like a few days earlier, my mom was having trouble. She's
Anthony?
Yeah.
Would you mind speaking up into the mic?
Oh, sorry, I apologize. You know what, I had a Zoom earlier today. It might just be because my speakers are lowered. Okay. Can everyone hear me better now? All right. Okay, we can get on to the first slide. So this is for LAE. I'll just read over the information as it comes because I was able to construct this presentation a few days ago. But certificated teachers continue building relationships with their students as they present both synchronous with asynchronous instruction. They're in the middle of parent conferences until October 23rd. Our preschool and moderate service SDC students have returned successfully to on-campus instruction. Our Tuesday PD days have been systematic in providing training for our staff, by our staff, on topics such as Google Classroom and Drive, Kami, Think Central, ELA and Math, Screencastify standards, base report cards, and the Leader and Me, LAEs, ELL and TEL-I aids, prove daily supplemental synchronous, small group support under the guidance of their certificated teachers, as well as make telephone calls daily to each grade level as part of LAE's parent outreach support. Our classified staff has been truly wonderful at supporting student learning and beautifying our campuses for when students return. That's LA's presentation. I think we have a few images of how they've been painting along with beautifying some of their classrooms. Next slide will be CHE. Update to CHE. We did unplug the Vinca front planter, painted 70s library wing hallway, 5 classrooms and computer lab, paid 3 basketball standards and USA map so far. And there will be more next month. Those are some of the images of the new painting and beautification they've done. We have VOE afterwards. We can do next slide. This is for VOE. We've had another successful couple of weeks here at BOE. Our tremendous teaching staff continues to deliver interesting and rigorous lessons via distance learning. I particularly enjoyed the math classes I sat in last week. They were great. Parent conferences are winding down. The conversations have been great and will help our Hawks thrive. The ladies in the cafeteria prepared and handed out nearly 300 lunches on Wednesday. Wow. Our additional support honor is up and running. We have staff available every day for students to log in outside of the regular day school and receive extra help when needed. Preparations for the return of our Hawks to campus continue to progress. Teachers are working hard on how to socially distance classrooms. We received the water balls for our Hawks to use at the filling stations. We had our social distancing event Friday, Footprint Friday, and used our feet to paint. It was amazing. That's done by the principal, Bruce Hamilton. Next slide. This is MPH board meeting. I apologize, I have to move my thing so I can read. LCAP Goal 1, Student Learning and Professional Development. New curriculum adoption in PD, math grade 6 to 8 with full online access to support distance learning. New pilot adoption in PD and history grade 6 to 8 with full online access to support distance learning. Continued training in PD for ELA adoption with an emphasis on support and access for our English learner population. New STEM scopes online curriculum and assessment package in science for grades 6 to 8. And then for today, standards-based curriculum aligned development of assessment calendars, Mobile Minds, Leading Edge Flex, Go Guardian, AussieWare, and Google Classroom training. LCAP Goal 2, School Safety and PBIS, see College and Career Month information. LCAP Goal 3, Engagement. MPH now has Instagram. Follow us using the handle Mary Plum and Hank. Okay, and I think he has another slide after this. You can go next slide. MPH campus beautification. Front wall up to MPH has been freshly painted. Doors, rails, walkways have been painted. Gym floor resurfaced. Stage floor resurfaced. Working on additional beautification and paint in the cafetorium, and additional apple trees painted. The next slide. MPH board update. October MPH College and Career Month. Students can participate by wearing college and career wear on Fridays, changing their distance learning background to the college or career of their choice, explore virtual job shadow, and submit completion of activities by email to our counseling office for PBIS Ryan Loop. That is your slide there. All right, Eagle highlights for October 2020. Intake meetings. Meetings between the principal, student, parent, and counselor are happening for the first time in 5 years. We got that going again. Second grade period. This is the 4th week of the 2nd to 6th grade week grading report, and students are working to make credits. Teacher professional development. Today, staff received training on Google, Go Guardian, and AussieWare. Monthly newsletter. New this year going to be parents and students using SMore software. School site council, meetings and planning once a month with parents and students. Senior day in Crafton Hills, students may attend on October 30th, 2020. Next slide. This is the home choice program that we have up now. We have 4 full-time home choice teachers serving over 100+ students as we are currently processing the wait list. Server families are developing cohorts or pods on their own to share the teaching to a small group of students. We have visited a home choice program in Hesperia to learn from them. And teachers are working with our elementary TOA on professional development today. Right. Tori Burke, Brim High School. School safety update. Student desk shields and teacher desk shields are being delivered to all classrooms. Leadership students are in the process of designing an RHS water bottle to be purchased for all students, and hallway traffic patterns have been installed. Beautification update. The halls and cafeteria have been painted, and now the bus drivers are working on revamping the trophy cases in the cafeteria speed line. General update. College information sessions are in full swing. We have had presentations from Cal Baptist, UCR, Cal State San Bernardino, and others. There have also been financial aid information sessions from guest speakers. After school tutoring via Zoom started this week. It is offered Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2:15 to 3:15 and is open to all students. Students have been taking the opportunity to meet with Assistant Principal Mr. H on Wednesdays to talk about topics such as technology and student well-being. I've also recalled having some mental health programs. Thank you, everybody. That is my presentation for this month.
And in that college class that Mr. Rowling has put together, Julie Roselle is the independent college counselor on. Anthony is an amazing writer. I just have to say, it's a pleasure to see one of our students, their essay and how well written and well composed it is. So Anthony, kudos to you, dude. Really, great job.
Thank you so
Since we're
much.
talking about Anthony, our next report from Mr. Malone will talk about, is on the board agenda because Anthony brought it up as a concern of his, talking about the way that we filter our devices and the reasons behind that. So I've asked Mark to give a presentation this evening about technology and why we have to do certain things because they're tied to funding, like E-rate. And then Anthony, when Mark's done, you can ask some of the questions that you asked me in your email.
I actually have prepared.
If you don't mind, I'm just gonna sit here so I can
It's fine.
click the arrows.
Let's move on to 10.0 reports and presentations. 10.0 Student Learning and Achievement Technology Report. Mark Malone, Information Systems and Network Specialist, and Anthony Armelini, student.
All right. So let me just start off by thank you for having me here tonight and give a presentation about this, because I know this is kind of an interesting topic, as not only if we were in school, but now that we have close to 3,000 Chromebooks out in the wild and 400 hotspots in California and some out of state. So it's interesting to see how technology is, I'll just say it, how my job has went from this to this, and it's not doing this yet. It's just keeps going up. So Anthony, I wanted to share with you the reasons why we have to filter certain things, and the reason why we are mandated as a school, as a public school district, and the way that, because we're funded through certain programs such as E-rate that's on the slide right now, we have to filter our internet access for anybody that's on campus. So, so E-rate is the basis for school districts to receive infrastructure money. So if I was to go to Mrs. Haberlin and say, I need $500,000 for the next 5 years to do infrastructure, she would just smile at me and say no. So what E-rate does is E-rate gives us a pool of money, and that based on our ADA, we have to, our ADA is because they give us, say, $500,000. They pay for 80% of our funding, and then we pay for 20% balance of that expenditure. So we have 5 years to spend it, and it's based on ADA. The district can purchase network infrastructure devices such as switches, routers, firewalls, management services, our broadband connection, which is our connection to the internet. That is under a category 1 E-rate funding, but it still covers under E-rate. And internal, that's school to school, our WAN, and then our external connection to the internet. So all of that is funded under E-rate. What we cannot purchase under E-rate is servers. We can't pay anybody out of E-rate, and we can't buy devices that students will use. That's just the way it is. So in a nutshell, E-rate is a way for that student in kindergarten or that senior in high school to get them onto the internet. So what does E-rate have to do with filtering? Well, E-rate has everything to do with filtering, and I'll just read this here. The Child Internet Protection Act, or CIPA, passed in the year 2000, stipulates that in order to receive E-rate funding, schools and libraries are required to block or filter internet access to pictures that are obscene, child pornography, or harmful to minors, or computers that are accessed by minors. And it's kind of weird in there that they just put in pictures, but it's pretty much anything that has to do with obscene, child pornography, or harmful, anything harmful to minors. And so what do we do? So what we've done in the past 5 years, we've installed the next generation firewall. We actually did that last year with E-rate funding. Previously, we were in a contract with San Bernardino County, but because our ADA was higher than their threshold, they told districts that they had to fund their own firewall. So we did that through E-rate. Everything that we do has to be CIPA compliant. So programs that we use, such as Renaissance Learning, Lexia, our textbooks have to all be CIPA compliant. We also, on that next generation firewall, we do packet level filtering. If you want more information on that, see me after the board meeting. That gets pretty technical. And there was a lot of questions about our hotspots. We aren't just giving the family a hotspot from Verizon and saying, have at it. That's not how it works, and that's not how Verizon does it, because Verizon says you guys have to filter the data from that hotspot. So what happens is the student's device connects to that hotspot. The hotspot data is encrypted and goes back to us through our firewall, then out to the internet. And that's how we keep those hotspots CIPA compliant. So if anyone asks you, all your kids can look up anything now that they have hotspots, they cannot. It's as if they're sitting in a school with those hotspots. All traffic network flows through our firewall when entering and exiting our local network. So even if you have your own device and you connect to our network, your device is now filtered on our network. We also have a Sophos antivirus, anti-malware installed on all district computers and servers. That is it's a non-consumer, it's a corporate level antivirus program. We also do some DNS filtering. If you want more information, ask me about that after the board meeting. GoGuardian, you heard a lot about GoGuardian today. All 6th through 12th grade teachers were trained today in GoGuardian. GoGuardian is a very easy way for when the teacher is on the Zoom, the teacher can actually see every single one of the students' screens. So they can not only see the students' faces, but they can see the students' screens. So now the teacher can say, hey, why are you on this site? You should be on this. And what's even better is the teacher can say, these are the only sites that your computer is allowed on during our Zoom. So it's really a neat program to use.
Is that Google Classroom and Zoom?
It's whatever they're on their computer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really neat program. And it's policy-based, which means that teachers can set up certain policies for this class versus this class, or if they're teaching multiple grade levels, this grade level versus this grade level. Another hot topic with some of our students is YouTube. We inherently block all YouTube videos. I don't know of a district that doesn't do that. Some districts just don't even allow YouTube on their network and don't allow teachers or students to do it. We allow YouTube on our network with the caveat, whereas the teacher will send in a ticket to open up that YouTube channel or that YouTube video. I will go in through GoGuardian and approve that whole channel. So if they say, I want Khan Academy open, I just open up Khan Academy, and you've got 20,000 Khan Academy videos. The student can search anything in Khan Academy. If they want PBS science, all PBS science is open.
Is that teacher specific, or is it once Khan Academy or PBS is open, is it available to all teachers?
Everyone. Everyone. So each teacher, we have a list of approved channels. We have over, I think we're close to 700 something channels now. 81,000 available videos, and I add them every day. Teachers are real diligent because they don't want the student sitting there just constantly reading. They want that visual interaction.
Just to confirm, you said that today you need approximately 700 YouTube channels are accessible on our network?
800, sorry.
Okay.
800 channels. And so if I,
80,000 videos.
yeah, 80,000 videos. So if I just open up like National Geographic channel, I'm sure they have 4,000 or 5,000 YouTube.
So once the channel's been approved, that's
All videos are approved.
Now, is that a specific URL so that if for some reason the content gets updated, does the teacher have to keep?
As long as, for example, Nat Geo doesn't change their channel name or their URL on YouTube, which I don't know why they would, if they upload a video, it's immediately available.
Is there a SIPA list that we could automatically have, or does SIPA provide that?
So what GoGuardian does is it looks at the videos, it looks for things like copyrights, just like YouTube would do. If that video is out of a certain category, YouTube categorizes videos such as education, music, gaming, things like that. If I approve that video, it will give me an alert that says some of these videos don't comply with the .edu standard. So those videos are automatically removed, but the videos that do comply are available. Yeah. I think, Anthony, you had some questions when reading your email. You were talking about secure browsers. A secure browser is used to make sure that the user does not have any other open windows, such as calculators or other easy accessible software that could aid the student in answering a question. And that's very important as we come into next spring when we start our SBAC testing. Students don't just pull up Chrome and start taking the test. They will go through a secure browser set up by CASP that the student will log into, and that browser will limit them in accessing any other part of the computer. So, for example, Illuminate has a secure browser that we use. CASP has one. College Board has their own too. For their testing, and there's a browser called Secure Test Browser, that's the actual name of it, that Valley College and Crafton Hills uses. So they use that for their testing environment.
Out of curiosity, if a computer is a dual boot, does it actually control both both segments, or do you know?
If the computer is dual boot, so if the computer is dual boot, you can only boot it into one operating system at a time.
So it's not going to be able to allow it to be like this. Okay.
Any questions?
Very technical questions, Mr.
Any questions, Anthony?
Yeah, I had a specific question for Lockdown browser in particular. So is that a secure browser managed and used by College Board itself, or is that just something that our district uses?
A little bit of feedback. We do not manage any secure browsers. We load on our devices that company's secure browser so the students can do what they need to do. But we don't have a secure browser and we don't manage any of that. We just install them per their recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay,
Would you mind sending a copy of this to us?
yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for your questions.
This is great, yeah.
I really do think it was good information for people to know.
My son always asks, why can't I get on my?
It's educational, he argues.
It is if the teacher's using it in the classroom for a lesson.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll move on to 10.2, financing facilities, update on school facilities. Jason Honderland, Chief Business Official, and James Zimmer, Supervisor of Maintenance and Facilities.
Yes, I just need to get your presentation ready to go. Sorry.
It's okay.
The report's not getting through our firewalls.
No, I thought I had it downloaded, but I did not.
And then we had a corrupt PowerPoint go through, so we had to do it again, so. Mark called and said, you have some blank pages on here. I'm like, no, we don't. Something broke and, beat me up. So, while we're waiting for that, thank you for having us. Per our governance calendar, we're having a routine facility and routine repair maintenance update. You all know Jim Zimmer, but for people who are watching online who maybe don't come often, is our supervisor of maintenance and facilities. So thank you very much. We worked on this together. There we go. Okay, so we have a shorter than we had been facilities update because we are really outside of major construction projects at this point. We are wrapping up a few, but really with Measure A not passing and almost fully utilizing our Measure W dollars and other facility dollars, we're really at the tail end of wrapping up any major construction, and we will be focusing more on any monies available to address deferred maintenance, routine maintenance, which is break fix. The light goes out, we fix it. Equipment needs and things like that. So we're going to just kind of start and tag the team right now. So Rim High Modernization Phase 2, we really have successfully closed out this project with DSA, which is the Department of State Architecture, and all work requests by the inspector that were outside of our scope have been completed by either our staff and or outside contractors. Besides the mural and some signage, we really haven't had a lot of construction activity for a while, but when you close out a project, it's called a path of travel inspection that is done, and a state inspector has then an opportunity to look at other things beyond what maybe the plans that were approved and what work the scope was. And during that path of travel review, there were some parking lot issues noticed that were not part of the plans or scope that are now the fall under today's code. There were things like a doorway, a threshold, there may be signage that now old signage is in an area that we didn't touch that needed to be changed to a different, either updated in total or changed to different heights. So some of it was very minor, send a crew member out and just spend the day, and some of it we did have to actually contract out with, a little bit of a frustrating process.
Yes, in the 300 parking lots,
So,
for the handicap parking, the 300 had to be changed around and redone.
the most,
The slopes.
and I think the most frustrating part is that in modernization phase 1, which was started in 2011, that actually was signed off by the inspector and our previous construction manager as being completed. So then to find out that it wasn't. So thank goodness it was just about a $3,000 little fix, and Jim was able to really take care of that mostly himself. Yeah, you just took care of it. So the picture to show you, we have our just a sample of what our mural, one of our murals look like, and our updated bathroom. Don't know if you have any questions on the wrapping up of Riverline modernization or where we are now.
Of course. Okay, so I'm in the RC hallway, prepping walls for painting. Okay, so you know where I'm talking about. So question on the room number, are they going to have placards on them? RC1, RC2 with a little braille, because we're going to be painting over those numbers. So if you're going to do a placard, then I won't paint numbers.
All of the placards are done.
Okay, well, then I'm painting numbers. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So that brings us to routine repair and maintenance and our contribution requirements. Ed code states that we fund routine repair and maintenance if we have received state bond dollars, a minimum of 3% of our general fund expenditures. So we start with a budgeted amount that we do at budget development. Then at the end of the year, so and this with our coronavirus monies, they did say we can exclude those dollars from the calculation, because if when you get an influx of one-time dollars that maybe you didn't budget, and then you haven't set enough money aside for routine repair, you wouldn't want to be in a penalty situation when you have received relief dollars. So we kind of re-bench this number. We'll look at it in March to see where do we think the school year will end. There was several years that this requirement was waived because of funding issues at the state. They gave flexibility to districts to not have to meet this requirement. So now, though, districts, those flexibilities are over. So districts will have to monitor, are they spending enough on routine maintenance and break fixes? And the thought behind the Ed code is so that a school district who has once received state or bond dollars puts money aside to maintain their facility at some level.
For the general fund?
Yes.
So, money such as insurance money from Grandview, or if we end up doing anything with real estate, depends on how we spend that money.
It depends on where we spend that money from. So if we deposit some of that money into the general fund and use it for general fund expenditures, that could make this calculation increase. We haven't been in a situation with RIM because we've had so many facility needs, and because we have irrigation problems and we have fields that are now there, you know, we have more needs than we can even fund. So even what we're funding at, even if it's above the minimum, it's still probably not adequate for what our schools need.
So that 3% is really way below what we really.
Yeah. But it is something that we're paying more attention now to now the flexibilities go up. Okay, it's real hard to see up there on your screen, but that is just a five-year summary of our expenditure related to routine repair and maintenance. Now, district-wide, we may spend money on maintenance outside of Jim's budget. I have a small budget for maintenance and repairs at the district office. The site might be given money, to repair some items. But this is really what Jim has in his control, work orders and whatnot. Okay, so if I mess up or anything like that. But work order since October 2019, the last time that we did this presentation to you, we had 1,163. We've assigned and completed with staff 1,055. And that's even, we had a few months of shutdown where we didn't have full crews working. So I think they caught up a lot in the summer. We submitted but declined back to the site 50, and that could be because it's maybe not a responsibility for maintenance. It could be a custodial duty. It could be something that is so far outreaching that we wouldn't have the funding for, or even a duplicate request. Could be a duplicate request. And then current work order in progress right now is 43. We did have some fence repair and graffiti removal at GBE, which we recently completed. And then our staff consists of 4 school maintenance, 2 school grounds, a shared administrative secretary, and supervisor. You want to add anything on? Work orders progress.
So we're doing a lot better this year than we were last year.
What do you mean by better? Just getting, not as
Not as
the
many
backlog.
So as many as are coming in, we're trying to get taken care of and closed back out.
So faster turnaround.
Yes.
Cool.
Have you seen an increase in work order requests? Even
Actually, yes.
From me. Just kidding.
That's the consequence of being attentive.
Yes, to
And
say,
then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we do have someone that will help us put a work order.
So that messaging of, I gave up and, well, it's right, yeah, we didn't do it. And that messaging worked for them.
Yes.
I hope not.
Okay, so some recent projects that we've completed at Hoffman, we completed wood replacement, fascia repair, painting of all that exterior areas. We did seal coat and crack fill of the parking lot, and we replaced the turf in our kindergarten area.
That's cool.
BOE, we did seal coat and crack fill of the parking lots as well. We replaced 2 air conditioning units in portable classrooms. We repaired an exterior stairway, resurfaced the sidewalks in front of the portables, and relocated 1 freezer from Grandview. We're busting at the seams at BOE. So. Okay, at LAE, again, we did seal coat and crack fill. We actually did plan that out. Jim had a plan to do all 3 schools, and so we were able to get that done. Sprinkler repair was completed. I haven't been to LAE, but I hear that the grass looks great. So we replaced a gas line for some heating problems. And I don't know exactly, there was one long hallway that the classrooms at the end of the hallway didn't quite get enough heat because of the gas line flow.
So we redid it all in 2 phases. We did half of it last year and then we finished the rest of it this year. So all those classrooms have full gas pressure.
By the time they got to the end of the hallway, those teachers were just getting tricked.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll be warmer this year if there's some cold days. And then we did some concrete repair in the back of campus. From High, there was cafeteria heater replacement, 300 wing staff restrooms, and there were some underground plumbing repairs that needed to be done. New gutters on the old gym, rain gutters. And we did some generator repairs.
And it's like Ms. Morgan Steinmeier's classroom. We did a little bit of flexing so that she has the heating, her heating issue.
She has a new unit
Yes,
that controls only her room.
exactly.
Instead of being ran off they had a community heater. So now it's her own individual. Along with ceramics also has their own individual.
So it's not going to be freezing cold.
She should have a lot more control of her classroom this year.
So that's exciting. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so at MPH, we did new LED lighting in the gym. We relocated 2 stoves from LGEC, and those were to replace broken stoves there. So kitchen equipment is expensive. I know it was on a wish list of Measure A passed to update our kitchen equipment at every site. I think that every site could use something right now, to be honest. And so, but we were able to fix 2 problems that would have been thousands of dollars by looking to see what we had at Grandview and looking to see what we had at LGEC. And then Jim was able to take that on himself. And especially after someone else told us it couldn't be done. So, at Mountain High, we assisted Rotary with ramp replacements and painting, and we served septic tanks. Yes, we have some of our campuses. That's our only campus on septic, right? Our yard, yes. And then at GPE, we repaired the fire alarm system in one area of the school and added a horn strobe fire system in the pump house.
For the septic tanks, is that maintenance done annually or service?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Should be serviced.
Okay, and then out at the DO, we had LED replacement of the pole lights in the parking lot. That was actually done, probably what, 6 months ago? 6 months ago. And so before you would leave, especially when the time changed, or if you had a late night, there was, and then of course, our tenant, when the movie theaters were open, that was a dark parking lot sometimes to exit into. So it looks really great now. We did partial roof repair at Gregory Educational Center. And we're still working. This was something that got put on hold a little bit with COVID. But then our burglar alarm panels, really district-wide, we're continuing to upgrade them. And is it with some radio services?
Radio communication and through the internet also. So that way we can do all of our code changes and alarm updates through one computer versus going out to every single individual panel.
And then now that we're doing so many beautification projects district-wide, we're finding that areas that we didn't have slated in the fascia or siding repair, when we went to paint, there was a lot of wood, especially in the maintenance and transportation yard, that really needed to be repaired before we could do some beautification.
I heard that paint scraping 100-year-old buildings is not very pleasant to do.
No.
Okay, and here's some pictures. Why don't you explain the pictures?
One is the stair replacement at BOE. And then the one to the right is CHE, all the new painting. Yeah. And that's the turf at CHE in the kindergarten area. That's the last area there that we need to have replaced. One to the right is the new LED lighting in the gymnasium at MPH.
I noticed the grass is growing again at MPH.
Yes,
On
the
the
whole
hill.
ball print area is it's coming back great.
And the field actually looks green on it there last week. I was like, wow.
Maybe it was
We've been working
if
really
we
hard
were
on
thinking of that.
the grass.
Yeah, thank you. The hills around the school look much, much better.
LGEC.
LGC, the one on the left is the roof that we're replacing hopefully this year. That's the one that still needs replacement. The one on the right is the second half of the school that was replaced this year. It's one of our buildings at the yard. All that fascia in the front was completely taken off and replaced. And our bus drivers painted the entire yard.
Did you do that in-house or contract out?
That was all done.
All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit about our needs, really our needs, whether there's money or not, just to keep that as part of the conversation. Some of these needs we have identified funds for. So fascia repair at BOE and then LAE. Paint at BOE, then LAE. We're going to do that over a 2-year period. The second half of the roof replacement at LGEC. That's dependent on a review of Fund 40. Generator service district-wide will continue on an annual basis. We have some tree removal at LAE. Asphalt repair at Mountain High School. Girls locker room heating replacement at RHS. I don't know too much about that.
Which is it's an old boiler system that they have no control over. So it's either 150 degrees in there or 60 degrees. So just like the other parts of the schools in our district that we're trying to get more control over, that's another big area that we will try to tackle this year.
We're going to be adding an additional bottle spill station at BOE. And then we do have a desire to address carpet and flooring needs district-wide. Flooring, if the funding's available. I know a broken pipe or lights, may be a priority over carpet or flooring, but funding permitted, we would like to look at some of, the orange carpet for the 60-year-old flooring to match the new paint.
What is the current status of all our generators in the district?
Every generator is up, running, and maintained as of August.
Do we have sufficient generators if power outages?
The only school that does not have one is LA.
Okay.
Okay, and then we would like to look at a district-wide 10-year roof resurfacing of all the different district sites. And right now, we're working on quotes from a vendor for that. Some of these have been on list for a long time. I'm talking about rekeying the entire district. I mean, that would be something with state money or a bond measure passed. Furniture upgrades and classroom renovations. That was on a wish list if a measure passed. Continued HVAC upgrades, LED lighting at the union schools, grounds equipment to increase efficiency, kitchen equipment, we touched on that for a bit, additional cloud costs, and continued work on a formal preventative maintenance plan, and the mobile use of School which is our work order system, and to increase technology use with GEMS maintenance staff. We would like to get that, whether it's cell phones or iPads or more electronic use of technology. Okay, so our current funding options. Right now, we have a contribution from our base, which is currently budgeted at just over $1.4 million. So our minimum required is 1.1 right now, but that does get rebitched depending on what our expenditures are. So we have remaining funds in Measure W now that all the projects are done. We do have $180,000, $130. So possibly some of that, whether it's roof repair or some of those needs, we could identify some of these funds for. We have we have about $170,000 still of our state funds, which we would want to, that's split between MPH REM, two actually taught with REM Mod 1 and Mod 2. So we would want to probably those needs at those particular schools identify this money to keep it within the school that generated the funds for that. In Fund 40, we have $233,844. That's for capital improvements and equipment. In our Fund 1 reserve, 2 years ago, we identified a possible need for Fund 1 to have to come up with part of our match with Measure W and Mod 2, not knowing, where we would be at with the funding wise, the scope of the project, and currently we don't see a need to match anything because the projects are over. And so that Fund 1 reserve could be allocated to $400,000 of that was swept from Fund 14, which is deferred maintenance. Whether the conversations go, put it back in Fund 14, keep it in Fund 1, reallocate it, keep it there for a rainy day, that would be up for board discussion. But the funds came from our forest reserve that we were obtaining and setting aside, and from Fund 14. And our JPA, a little bit of our premium that we pay each year, I think it's $25,000 or $30,000 goes into a loss prevention pot. It's our money. We have control over it. We just let it build up over a few years. Maybe then I start identifying projects. Years ago, we identified ramps at many of our portables that needed to be replaced. We tapped into these funds. We haven't tapped into it because we've had Measure W, we've had some other dollars, but if we identified some more loss prevention, safety related expenditures could be funded through this. It's even though it's our own money out of our premiums we pay, it is the cash is sitting with the JPA, so it's almost like a reimbursable. We submit invoices and we get reimbursed back. And then we have developer fees, which can be used for reconstruction or construction of facilities. We paid for, we let that build up, and we paid for Mountain High's bathroom remodel. And currently those funds have 280,482 in that without, and no projects identified. You know, that would be a development fund 25. Okay, so with that, is there any questions?
Why are you looking at me? I know I had questions all the time, but I see you a lot, so I'm just telling, I just go, hey, I have a question for you. So I'm pretty good.
Good.
So that last slide and the report that we got, those numbers appear in
No,
this budget.
a multi-year projection does not cover that. The only area you would see that is the Fund 1 reserve is 571 of that, of our reserve is that source.
Okay.
But Measure W is Fund 21, Facilities Fund 35, Fund 40, JPA losses, you know, the money's at the JPA, and development fees is Fund 25. When we look at our multi-year projections, we are focused on Fund 1, which is our general fund.
I'm good.
Good.
One of the wish list items.
I'm sure I'll have something next week.
Well, accomplished too. Just,
Oh,
I'd say now compared to a year ago, all of our campuses are in better shape. For 2 years ago, it's going in the right direction, definitely.
Been working really hard.
You can see it.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
thank you so much.
I'm gonna hang out here because I'll be held up in a little bit.
Okay. So we'll move on to 10.3, budget and enrollment report. Can remember them, business officials.
Hey, I have a very small report for you this evening. We did, I don't have any PowerPoint. I did have one handout on our enrollment and our more focus on our projected enrollment. But where we are right now, we just spent a lot of time last month with the unaudited actuals, how we closed the year. And so really there hasn't been a huge update, you know, since September. And right now what we're doing is we're gearing up for first interim, which will be brought to you in the December board meeting. And that will have a revised working budget as of today, you know, it's really technically as of October 31st, but with all of November, if there's an update to any resource or funding source, you know, we go ahead and before that board meeting, we try to get as much updated, any known update or change will be reported in December. So you did see if you check your email, I did a parent square, or Mark did it, I can send him the wording, but we are looking at, I would have to say maybe a plea to families or parents on, and we talked about September last year, we were having the same conversation about getting school lunch meal applications or the alternative income verification form filled out by our families. Right now, we are able, through some state and USDA changes, to feed every family meal application or not. And it's 100% free right now. And so those meal distributions are happening on Wednesdays. And we're not checking eligibility because we don't have to, because the state has said during, and the USDA, because it took a partnership between those two organizations, that, you know, the families need to have, you know, a full week of food, especially with the economy, people who have lost their jobs, et cetera. And the kids who aren't coming to school aren't getting those meals, and some of them were the only meals they had that day. So we're fortunate that we were able to provide that. But on the other end, what is happening, because people don't have to fill out a meal application, and they can still participate in the program, we don't have that documentation of household income level on file, which is 100% confidential because I know people don't like to give out personal information. But where that hurts the district On the other side is, even though our ADA has been held harmless, that we are going to be funded at the same ADA as we were last year, the UPP percentage, which is the percentage of our students, free and reduced lunch, EL, foster, military, and homeless, that UPP percentage and that calculation for our supplemental concentration grant is not held harmless. So our beyond ADA funds that we get, which is several $1 million, that is still subject to the current year unduplicated count percentage. But without the need for families to fill out the forms that would normally get you a free or reduced lunch or a free bus pass or income verification, without the need on the one side to need that document, it's hurting districts, and we are not alone. It's been a huge conversation in the last 2 weeks when districts are starting to look at their CalPADS data. It's statewide, it's not unique to Ren. There all of a sudden was a, okay, look what's happening to our schools. So we started a conversation about it last week, Dina Hartwell and I, and we had a meeting today. And to see where we're at, the state has extended our deadline to certify those numbers from October 31st to December 31st. And so right now, we're going to be in a big push for our families to complete these forms. We sent out our first notification today. So if a family received a phone call 2 weeks ago saying, hey, why didn't you complete this application? You were free last year. We don't have an application on file. Unfortunately, we're going to bug you again to complete that form. Letters will be going out from the Child Nutrition Office, and we're going to put an information flyer in everyone's lunch sack at the next meal distribution. But right now, we're seeing a very low unduplicated percentage being that is our first kind of CBEDS run, CalPADS run, and concerning enough that it was kind of turn on the brakes today, let's regroup, let's see where we're at and where we have to go. So
what we're looking at is 48%, and you have to hit that 50% threshold just to qualify for the for any kind of
really
grant.
55% and up is for the concentration grant.
55%, that's so 7%. We're looking at 30, so we're looking about 200 or at least 200 kids, more like 210 kids, which could make a huge difference.
At least.
At least, and I don't know whether there's been any kind of communication for the college classes so that students know that they would get definite benefits when applying to colleges.
That's part of the letter that's going to be going out next week, with informing our families that with that designation as a free or reduced meals, it opens up special programs for your utility bills. It opens up fee waivers for college applications and fee waivers for AP courses and testing.
We did say that in Wisconsin University for both AP tests, SAT, ACT, and the actual applications for UC-CSU. So we did hit that hard in that conversation.
So we're really going to be a little bit of a broken record the next month, trying to get that number improved as much as possible and do a real big push. Personally, we talked about this before, our percentage has been hovering in the 55, 57, 56%. We really, if you look at our other demographics with the school district, we should be somewhere in the 60%. So how do we accomplish that, even with or without a year of declining enrollment or coronavirus? That's been a conversation that we've had for years on, but it seems like right now with what's going on, it's even more important to not let one application get missed. So apologize in advance for anyone that may get a second or third phone call or an email or a letter. It's just because it's so important to the school district.
So just to be clear then, what little concentration grant funding we got as a district last year, we are in danger of losing that next school year.
This
For this
For this school year, sorry.
which makes it really challenging for us to be able to make sure that we stay solvent.
And again, that concentration grant is for the percentage above 55%. So
Yes.
we were already, really close to that threshold compared to other districts.
Yes, and it also, because we're funded on a 3-year rolling average, a low percentage this year will impact the next 2 years of funding.
So this has major implications for us.
So included in today's press release, we also sent that same letter to all the newspapers. So hopefully it gets picked up and either in their own social media or part of their online outreach. Even an article would be lovely. So, and then I just wanted to touch base on enrollment. Month 2 enrollment has come and gone. And in month 2, we were at 2,918 students. And month 3 ends at, I believe, the October 30th. So then we'll have revised numbers in the November board meeting. But the handout that I gave you this evening is just where our enrollment was at month 1. I got month 2 written on a sticky because I had this running in here from Scott White because he's still working on it, saying, what's at least the number if I don't have a report done? So, but at the time I needed to print the document out for you. Month 1's number was 2,924. We estimated a CBEDS of 2,900. Well, knowing that CBEDS is in October and today's number is 219, that CBEDS number will probably be around 215, 218, what it was. I'm talking to staff today. And because we're at lower enrollment, we did project our future enrollment now based on a smaller number. So it's going to be real important to revisit these numbers because how much confidence will we have in them, or will we open or not open and see enrollment grow or decline further? When we, in January to April, when maybe the nation has a little bit more of a handle on things, will we have people come back to our schools? Will we not? What will out-of-state migration be like? So there's a lot of unknowns right now with enrollment. So it looks a little scary right now where our enrollment is and where, if it stays on trend, where it would be going. And then especially where it is compared to where we budgeted it would be. So that's, we're over a 5-year period, we're about 1,000 students possibly we could have lost compared to budget, due to our sharp decline this year. So, but I think it's something that we stay a little positive and look at every month and see, okay, where are we at in November? Where are we at in December? I think January will be a big month if there's more openings going on, and then in spring definitely. So normally we've been really spot on with our projections, as a team working on them. Right now it's feeling a little bit unsettled with how many families will come back to RIM or come to RIM for the first time because of the real estate market, the second homes, finding out that, they're just as much in love with the community as we are. So, there's just right now, I think it's a day by day. And let's see where we're at.
What did you say is on your sticky note, number 2?
2,918
Thank you.
officially. Unless you have any questions.
Sure, crystal ball.
Can we invite Mr. Gray to the conversation? Go ahead.
You say that people can apply for the pledge program and they won't be asking for financial information?
They will still be asking for financial information, or if they don't want to apply for a meal application, the actual form, there's an alternative income verification form they can complete. and that we're providing that for families also. It asks for a little bit less than the meal application form. One's a state form, one's a federal form, but then it's also very confidential. But there is a second form if any family doesn't feel comfortable with the federal National School Lunch Program form. Yes, household income, household size, and sources of all income, if you're on Cal Fresh.
It is self-reported, right? Yeah.
Jenny, is this information available through like a student's Aries account? Do they have to have a paper form, or is it something they could do?
The meal application is on our website through the Titan software, which is, there's a link and it's embedded in the notification I gave out today. And the alternate forms are posted on our website under child nutrition. That's a link also in the publication I sent out today.
We've had those things Titan for a while.
Yes,
For that
Titan's
form.
a very user-friendly platform. And you find out like this if you qualify.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your question. Anything else? Okay, how about from the review?
And we were thinking we would even grow because of we're talking about a month ago or so. So it was a little disheartening.
Right, and sorry to interrupt, but because of COVID, a lot of people have lost sources of income. So if they are filling them out, just the general perception would be that it would grow and we would have fewer or more families struggling. But I think you're spot on with the fact that it matches up with free and reduced lunch. It's already free. Why do I fill out the form? It's frustrating that that's the system that it's part of, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's surprising that a health harmless for ADA, they wouldn't hold the unduplicated count percentage harmless as well, especially with not requiring some of these forms, which are incentives.
And that goes, to our education, it's not just, well, what's the point? Because I'll get free meals anyway. It goes beyond meals. And I think we talked about that at length.
And we did talk about this even today, but Title I is a funding source that uses free and reduced lunch numbers. So, sites rely on their Title I heavily to supplement their programs. And so, what will this do to our Title I funding? We haven't even had that conversation, Heather. So,
I don't want to have it right now.
What I'm wondering too, I'm looking at our homepage right now, district homepage, if there's a way, maybe in multilingual fashion to provide an easy link that is just really right to the point in terms of, click here to be able to go to that paperwork.
we can work on that
Possibly
together.
creating a
We
really
talked
easy
today about
access
putting
to it.
it in many places,
And right now, I'm guessing it's the top thing in the parent square integration on the website.
It is, but it's not, it's.
Until
I can put it in right when you go to the site, the alert comes up.
And just like keywords right away.
Fill this out, please.
Yeah. It's not free and reduced lunch, it's free and reduced costs generally, because it does go beyond the means. But, anyway.
Thank you,
Let's
Jen.
go ahead.
Thank you.
We able to at the sites talk about this classes?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Can you talk about it in the classroom?
It's more parent focused, it'd have to go through them. But if there's anything that teachers are putting out for parents, like we normally do in the classroom, if we have communication, we can't do that.
So I can put out my Google Classroom, please fill out this, put a link to it.
Yeah, as long as it's geared toward parents, we can do it, yeah.
Even you can have a copy of my letter that went out today, or another one will go out next week, and we're working on an all-call.
I think that's one thing that parents are looking at, or the Google Classroom settings. So
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
with that, we'll move on to 11.0, information only. 11.1, receive the recommendation of the district's 7-Eleven SPAC committee for the use of surplus property. That is page 1 on our board packet. And here is the statement from the 7-Eleven committee. Remember World Unified School District's Strategic Plan Advisory Committee, 7-Eleven committee, convened on September 24th, 2020. Present in person or via Zoom were Gilmarie Franlett, Chair, Gail Russell, James White, Carla Kellums, and Claudia Marsh. The committee was charged with making a recommendation regarding the best use of surplus property, Grandview Elementary School. Note, recommendations were previously received by the committee for the BOE vacant land and the district office. The committee had an opportunity to discuss. The committee voted to recommend the following. The district should lease the property to a governmental or community organization. If there is not a commitment or interest from such agency within 120 days, it is recommended that the district sell the property at no less than fair market value. If either of these recommendations do not occur, the committee will reconvene on the subject in the fall of 2021. So that was the recommendation that we just received from the 7-Eleven committee. Any questions or clarifications that board members might have?
Is it possible for us to get a copy of that?
Yes. Yeah, and I can pass it around to you if you'd like.
Was there a recommendation on like the lease amount?
Fair market.
Oh, that was the sale amount, was
Right.
fair market. On the lease amount, was there any recommendation?
And again, we have two options. If we can't, if we can take the recommendation, of course, and pursue a governmental or community organization to lease the property. If that doesn't happen within 120 days, we could also take their recommendation to sell the property at fair market value. Another option would be to not take either of those recommendations and kick it back to the committee.
Wouldn't kick back to the committee.
It would reconvene.
No,
But you don't have to take any of the recommendations if you don't want to.
but you don't have to reconvene if you don't take their recommendation, you would make your own decision.
Let's
As a
see.
board.
Yeah.
But it had said that if we don't,
That's just their recommendation
their
to you,
recommendations.
but you don't have to take their recommendation.
Okay, so that's also an option.
So,
Is, at this point, is there any other tasks that we have given to the 7-Eleven committee, or is this the last of the recommendations?
so we started meeting in June of last year. We had some site visits and 3 meetings, and we have a meeting planned in January. And 7-Eleven committee, per ed code and government code, does have an opportunity if the district desires, and they desire, to be honest, to review all of the district's properties and any surplus space, whether it's in an opened or closed school. They could if they wish, or if you've asked them to, which we haven't, look at, this same committee, you would task with analyzing a district boundary change, for instance, or something like
Or
that.
start the organization?
So,
Closing schools.
it does, we are meeting again in January, to not only give an update to where we are with Grandview, but our other properties too, BOE, vacant land, and the district office space. That's informational only, but then also to just see where the district's at with attendance and enrollment.
Would the committee be interested in, reconvening and perhaps updating the recommendation to include perhaps a target or, I guess that really will depend on what the market conditions are, the lease amount. It's going to depend on market conditions and whether it's a governmental or community organization interested and what they might plan to do with it. So I guess there's too many factors to ask for a recommendation on lease
And
price.
typically, a government agency or other agency would propose to us what they could afford
Right.
based on a grant amount or income amount. And then we would work with them, like we have with Park and Rec, to lease our buildings or the movie theater or those kind of things.
And obviously links, those links would be dependent upon our judgment too.
Correct.
So upon any interest or next steps, we would agendize our properties on a closed session discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? We'll move on. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our action calendar then. 12.0. 12.1, personnel services, approval of the personnel page, fiscal impact budgeted pages 2 through 6.
So moved.
Second. Who's the second? Second. Discussion. Do we have Dr. Branson still?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I didn't see it then. All right. If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 12.2, personnel services, approval of a one-year certificate of completion of staff development, CCSE, waiver for a regional occupational program, ROP, instructor, Marie Farah, October 5th, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, page 7, fiscal impact 9.
So moved.
These are first,
I second.
Janice, our second. Discussion? Okay. If none, we'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 12.3, special services, approval to appoint Scott Francois as a parent of a student with a disability to the Parent Advisory Board, PAB, for 2020, 2021, and 2021, 22 school year. Page 8 is impact 9.
So moved.
Numbers are first,
Second.
and is a second. Discussion?
Thank you, Scott, for becoming involved.
Definitely. Let's go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 12.4, special services, approval to appoint Jack Cooperman as a representative of an agency that works with the district to the Parent Advisory Board for the 2020-21 and 2021-22 school years, page 9, fiscal impact 9.
So moved.
Here's the first,
Second.
and Leslie is our second. Discussion?
Thank you for joining our board. What agency does he work for?
Snow Valley.
Thank you.
He's also the current president of Lake Arrowhead Sunrise Rotary.
Excellent. Well, thank you to Dr. Cooperman. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 12.5, business services, approval to provide a stipend of $500 to ROP/CTE teachers for improving equipment and/or instructional materials to be used in distant learning or a hybrid learning model of instruction. 2020/2021 school year, page 10, fiscal impact, $3,750, ROP/CTE restricted general fund, coronavirus relief fund.
So moved.
Second.
Leslie's our second. Discussion.
Just a question, just confused, in that the fiscal impact of 3750, I would have thought it would have been some sort of an increment of $500. So just wondering,
Payroll taxes on top of it.
okay.
And then we
Always
round
taxes.
it- And then we round it up.
Okay,
Yeah, we have one employee in process and not a
All right.
full FTE, so.
So it's an estimated fiscal impact.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
thank you.
Good question. Anything else? Okay, let's call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 13.0 consent calendar, items pulled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration in agenda item 14.0. Anything that we'd like to pull?
13.6,
13.6,
13.1,
13.1. Is that correct?
yep.
Okay. Anything else?
You're in your 56, yeah.
Okay, so then, let me just write that down before I forget. All right, so we'll be moving forward then with 13.2, 13.3, 13.4, 13.5, which was again amended under agenda item 2.1, just to be clear. 13.7, 13.8, 13.9, 13.10, and 13.11.
So moved.
That is our first.
Second.
Again, is our second. Discussion? All right, let's go ahead and call for the vote on those items. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. 14.0, items removed from the consent calendar. Item number 13.1. Board minutes, waive reading of the subject minutes for the September 10th, 2020 regular board meetings, September 24th, 2020, and September 29th, 2020 special board meetings. Approve as written and order filed. Fiscal impact.
Just one.
First-
So moved.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
I'll second it.
Anna, and let's go and discuss.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I wanted to pull this just to thank Connie. She's here on all of our meetings, taking down pretty much everything that we're saying and does a wonderful job of it. And I think it's kind of a thankless position to be in, and I just wanted to state some appreciation.
Thank you.
Did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Hey, hey, bravo, Connie.
And anytime it comes up, it's always worth pointing out that she takes more minutes than what are actually required to take. She always is better to err on the side of taking in more information than not taking enough.
And I
She's
think,
always been very thorough.
I think there are some particularly tough things to get down in this set, and just, they did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
We as a board have not made it easier on her. We discuss a lot and she takes down everything. And again, just so people might know a little bit insight into that process, she will take, all of our meetings are recorded, the audio is recorded. She will listen to our entire board meeting again and review those and take those notes, and that's how she gets the complete minutes down. I mean, there's no fast forwarding to that. If we have a 5-hour board meeting, guess what? She's sitting in there listening to 5 hours of audio.
But she's still smiling.
Under her
She makes me
mask,
shut
we
all
could
the
see.
doors. Don't bug me, she says. Don't bug me.
Please, thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We'll go ahead and call for the vote then on this item. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Item number 13.6, educational services. Approval to update the Rim of the World High School's Associate Student Body ASB Constitution, pages 29 through 56, fiscal impact 9. Do you approve?
So moved.
Indeed.
Second.
And Natalie, discussion.
Yes, just hold for another thank you for everybody that puts in the work to create, edit, adopt the Constitution. So much appreciated. On all of these agendas, items that we don't pull, there's also still hours and hours and hours and tons of work and knowledge that goes into these things. So we pick out a few special ones each time, I think, for special acknowledgement. And that one I wanted to give to ASB.
I think there's also, I'm glad we pulled this because we have one amendment that we might consider making. It would be something that would include adding a cheating and academic honesty clause, as well as making the last clause an absolute standard / automatic disqualification, essentially a zero tolerance for cheating clause. So
The high school had that discussion and has already agreed to add that to the behavior part, which is the addendum to the Constitution. So the behavior contract that students will sign will have the no cheating clause and the absolute clause added to their behavioral contract. Thank you to the high school team for working on that. and getting back to
agree.
us.
It's not.
Mrs. Markovich and Tori worked, and Stephanie Phillips worked on that.
we have talked so then the amendments will come back to us.
The amended version.
Should we not pass this and wait for the
Well, we
amended
can
version to
pass
come?
this
And then still we'll get them.
We can conditionally pass it,
No, if we just approve what's in front of us and then the amendment part, the additional amendment parts.
But it sounds like what's getting amended is the
So we're approving the actual constitution.
That references this other contract that.
Right.
So no changes will be made from pages 29 to 56.
Right.
That will remain as is.
Yes.
Okay. If that's accurate, then we don't need to make an amendment.
And we have to thank Amanda Markovich, the ASB advisor, for working diligently with the student administration on this.
Especially with children, this has been a long effort and there's some tenacity involved to keep it going.
She started this process, I think, before lockdown and then continued it, so.
Okay. Well, then, if that's the case, then we'll go forward on the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, we'll move on to 15.0, governance team future agenda items plan. 15.1, time allotted to the board of trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. Anything? Yeah.
I love the deep breath.
Here it goes.
I know, you warned us with that deep breath.
I know, I've got it. Wondering about possibly adding for a future agenda item, taking a look at our core academics specifically. Heather does a beautiful job of giving us updates. We get information in each of the different school sites, but possibly taking a look at maybe having a meeting where we focus on, say, math, district-wide. And another, we do take a look at test scores, we take a look at our dashboard, but being able to kind of do a deep dive into math or English or history or science in one meeting.
Are you referring to having study sessions?
Whether it's through a workshop or otherwise, but being able to focus on a specific curricular subject in terms of how we look at things and doing a deep dive in one area. So that is my suggestion as an agenda
What
item.
are you like saying? What is the curriculum that we teach to K-12? What is the verbal articulation? How does that go?
You want to report on each of those things?
Or what is the plan that we are operating on to be able to improve our dashboard?
Got it. So, got it.
That's the, looking at one subject at a time.
So something more focused than LCAP, which is in our.
Right.
Yes. And my request would be, if we were to consider doing this, is start with now.
No,
I think you
I
could.
would agree on that.
Yeah. I think you could easily say that you're a little biased, but at the
I'm
same
not
time,
usually biased.
you could follow the data and see where the most needed.
Go with the struggling.
And I would totally open, I'd be open to maybe other items on the dashboard instead, if it makes more sense, turning the timing and the like,
I think
but
we
just being
should
able to
try
have
for
a vertical look.
Math makes great sense.
No, I agree. I think that this is, that LCAP is the board discussion, we can highlight what we would like to focus on in next year in terms of assistance and support and stuff, but I mean, to really take a comprehensive look of how the verbal articulation, I know that we are doing a better job in terms of doing that between elementary and, there's great communication between
TOSAs are
MPH, the TOSAs, and I think that having the comprehensive look at those pieces and the supports that we're going to try to do to move us forward out of red. I would love to be out of red and have a really awesome Yahoo that we're in yellow or something. Let's get out of red. That's all I'm saying.
I think a lot of districts are.
What's up? Team yellow. Team yellow. Let's go team yellow. Let's try for that.
Green.
Team green. I'm good with even anything on that little speedometer.
As long as it includes movement.
Yeah. just
They
is.
want soft flies motion.
Okay, anything else?
And that also can include the pieces of PD, because I know that Heather looks at those and principals look at those PD opportunities and peer help, peer walks, whatever you want to call them. And I think that it would be good to hear what are those pieces? What are the pieces for EL students? And they come into play too with these different areas of like English and stuff. Just saying.
Certainly a lot that goes into a core subject beyond.
Well, because she plans us along before she starts. She was like, little mini type. And it's like, how did she do that? With her Post-it notes.
Let's go ahead and move forward, if there's nothing else, to our 16.0 teachers meeting dates. We have a special board meeting October 22nd, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Ridge High School Library. It will be streamed via YouTube. And again, that is where we will be interviewing trustee area 1 candidates that have applied. Again, that's 2. That's Lisa Raxick and Bill down here, or William down here, is his official name. And we'll have a regular board meeting November 19th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. in the Red High School Library and streamed via YouTube. A regular board meeting December 15th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. in the Red High School Library and via YouTube. That'll be when we install our new board. And each of us will get new trustee areas. And so I'll be in trustee area 5. And we'll have to work on that. So again, all future meetings will be held at the Rim High School Library and via YouTube for the public until executive orders change regarding gatherings. So we'll go ahead and 17.0 recess to closed session if necessary. Did you squeak by? Do you need to go back to closed session?
Okay, so we're going to talk about it.
The rest of that page was for your information.
Correct.
You didn't need to give direction. I read the page.
I think we all did. So
Just saying. We all did. Jimmy, do you need to go back in closed session? But she should. Please God, get me out of here.
we're very limited that, we start our open sessions at 4 and then immediately go to closed session. We usually pick up an entire hour and a half. So we really pushed it today. Excellent. So we will not recess after closed session. 18.0 adjournment. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:12 p.m. Second.
Who's that?
Natalie?
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. The meeting was adjourned at